Jake Morrison sat in the cold metal chair and watched the aliens talk about his people like they were children. The Galactic Council chamber was huge, with walls that reached up so high he could barely see the top. 12 different alien species sat on floating platforms, looking down at him with eyes that showed nothing but disgust. 3 years. 3 long years Jake had been coming to these meetings, listening to the same complaints and demands. The council said they wanted peace, but what they really wanted was for humans to do whatever they were told. The worst one was Vexthur. The creature looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and skin that changed colors when it got angry. Right now it was turning a dark red as it spoke. The human colonies in the Outer Rim are causing problems, Vexthur said, its voice making a clicking sound with each word. They mine too much, they build too fast. They do not ask permission. Jake had heard this before. The council did not like that humans worked hard and got things done quickly. They preferred species that moved slowly and asked for help with everything. Council. Prime Kethfer floated above them all on the biggest platform. It was the leader of the Zenthari, a race that looked like tall gray beings with too many fingers. Ambassador Morrison, your species must learn to follow the rules that keep the galaxy safe. What rules? Jake asked. He had asked this question many times before. I've never written down these rules. You just make them up when you do not. Like what we do. The chamber filled with angry sounds from the different aliens. They did not like being questioned. Counselor Yilmoth, of the Aquatic Federation, made a wet gurgling noise that meant disagreement. Its tank suit bubbled as it spoke. Humans are too aggressive, too independent. You need guidance. Captain Lisa? Hayes sat next to Jake. She was the military representative from Earth. Jake could see her hands making fists under the table. Lisa had been a soldier for 20 years before becoming a diplomat. She understood fighting better than talking. But she had learned to control her anger during these meetings. We have followed every agreement we signed, Lisa said, keeping her voice calm. We have not attacked anyone. We have not taken anything that was not ours. We have traded fairly with all species. That is the problem, said Counselor Zephron. From the Maritime Collective, it looked like a large octopus with too many eyes. You do not need us. That makes other species uncomfortable. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Now he understood what this was really about. The council was not trying to make peace. They were trying to make humans weak and dependent. 3 years Earth had sent its best people to these talks. They had offered to share technology, to help solve problems, to work together for a better galaxy. The council had ignored every offer and made new demands instead. We want your weapons technology, Vexthur said suddenly. The chamber went quiet. This was the first time they had asked for something so directly. No, Jake said. Vexthur's skin turned almost black. You will give us your weapon designs? Or we will take them. You will try. Lisa said softly. Council Prime Kethfer raised all 6 of its hands for silence. Let us not speak of war. We are here for peace. But humans must understand their place in the galaxy. You are young. You are small. You need the wisdom of older species. What wisdom? Jake stood up from his chair. The wisdom that says bigger. Species get to tell smaller ones what to do. Yeah, the wisdom that says might makes right. Sit down, human, Vexthur ordered. Jake did not sit down. Instead, he reached for his briefcase and started putting his papers away. The human colonies will be placed under Council's supervision, Council Prime announced. This is not a request. We have voted and it is decided. Jake stopped moving. Lisa turned to stare at him, waiting to see what he would do. You want to take our homes, Jake said quietly. We want to guide your development, Council Prime corrected, for the good of all. Jake closed his briefcase and picked it up. Lisa stood up beside him. Where are you going? Counselor Yilmoth gurgled. We are not finished. Yes, you are, Jake said. He started walking toward the exit. Behind him, he could hear the aliens making confused noises. They had expected him to argue, to beg, to offer compromises. They had not expected him to just leave. Cannot simply walk away from the Galactic Council, Vexthur called out, its voice getting higher. Jake stopped at the big doors that led out of the chamber. He turned around and looked at all 12 species sitting on their platforms, looking down at him like he was some kind of animal that had learned to talk. "What? Watch us," he said. "If you leave these talks, there will be consequences," Council Prime warned. "The galaxy is vast, but we control the trade routes, control the safe passages between stars, control everything that matters." Jake nodded slowly. "Control everything that mattered." "Past tense? What does that mean?" Zephron demanded. "Means we gave you 3 years to prove you could be reasonable. It's 3 years to show us that the galaxy had room for species that wanted to work together instead of rule over each other." Lisa stepped up beside him. Her hand rested on the weapon at her side. Not as a threat, but as a reminder that humans were not helpless. "You failed the test," Jake continued. "So now we go home and do what we should have done from the beginning." "What is that?" Vexter asked, its skin now cycling through different colors rapidly. Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had been very patient for a very long time, and whose patience had finally run out. "We stop pretending that we need your permission to exist." The chamber erupted in angry voices as Jake and Lisa walked through the doors. Behind them, the Galactic Council shouted threats and demands, but neither human looked back. They had work to do. 6 months passed without a single word from Earth. The silence was complete and total. No messages, no trade requests, no diplomatic communications of any kind. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. At first, the Galactic Council celebrated. Vexter strutted around the chamber with its skin bright yellow, the color of victory among its species. "The humans have learned their place," it announced to anyone who would listen. They crawled back to their little corner of space to hide. Council Prime Kethfer agreed with confident nods. "This proves our methods work, show strength, and the younger species will submit." But as weeks turned into months, the celebration began to feel hollow. The galaxy was a big place, but it was also connected in thousands of ways. Trade routes, communication networks, shipping lanes, mining operations. Humans had been part of all of it, and now those connections were simply gone. The first problem started small. Shipping company on Kepler Station complained that their human cargo pilots had not reported for work. When contacted, the human-owned transport company sent a single message: "Contract terminated. No further services available." Similar reports came from across the galaxy. Human traders, workers, technicians, and contractors were leaving their jobs without explanation. They packed their belongings, settled their debts, and disappeared. Counselor Zephyrin was the first to notice the pattern, as many eyes could track. Multiple data streams at once, and what it saw worried it. "The humans are not just being silent," it reported to the council. "They are pulling out of everything." "Good," Vexter said, but its skin was now a duller yellow. "Let them isolate themselves. They will come begging for readmission to galactic society soon enough." Admiral Kate Sullivan had been Earth's main fleet representative during the peace talks. She commanded 12 human warships that patrolled trade routes and helped with rescue operations. Her ships were known for their efficiency and the professionalism of their crews. One day, her entire fleet simply vanished from their patrol routes. No distress signals, no warning messages, no explanation. The ships were there during the morning sensor sweep and gone by evening. Space traffic control on Vega Prime tried to contact them. "Human Fleet 7, please respond. Your ships are showing as offline." No answer came. The mystery deepened when investigation teams reached the human colonies. These were worlds that humans had settled over the past 50 years, turning empty planets into thriving communities. Now they found the colonies completely abandoned, not destroyed, not attacked, just empty. Buildings stood intact with lights still on and machines still running. Gardens were watered and maintained by automatic systems, but there were no people anywhere. Dr. Alina Rodriguez had been Earth's chief science advisor during the peace talks. She was known for her brilliant work on faster-than-light communication and energy generation. The last confirmed sighting of her was entering a research facility on Mars, when long-range sensors were pointed at Mars months later. The facility had grown. What had been a small complex was now a massive installation, covering hundreds of square kilometers. Strange energy readings came from it constantly, but no one could determine what was being built there. "Send a probe," Council Prime ordered. "We need to know what the humans are doing." 3 probes were launched toward the Sol system. All 3 stopped transmitting the moment they crossed into human space. The economic effects started hitting the outer colonies first. Human-built infrastructure began shutting down in sequence. Space elevators, mining platforms, manufacturing centers, all of them had been built with human technology and maintained by human technicians. Without humans to run them, they simply stopped working. "This is sabotage," Vexler declared, its skin now cycling between yellow and red. "They are attacking us by leaving." "How can leaving be an attack?" asked Counselor Yilmoth from its tank suit. The answer came in the form of empty shelves and broken machines. Humans had been deeply integrated into galactic commerce, more than anyone had realized. They built things that lasted and worked efficiently. They provided services that others depended on. Now, all of that was gone. Commander Alex Chen had been a liaison officer working with Council security forces. He was known for his tactical expertise and calm demeanor under pressure. When his base, Commander tried to contact him for a routine briefing. They found his quarters empty and his access codes deactivated. A search of his personal files revealed something disturbing. Chen had been downloading massive amounts of tactical data about Council military installations, ship movements, and defense protocols. All of it was gone now, along with Chen himself. Similar discoveries were made across the galaxy. Humans in positions of trust had been quietly gathering information for months before they disappeared. Technical specifications, strategic plans, resource inventories, they had been preparing for something. The first major incident happened in the Hegemony's core territory. The Zarian mining platform was a massive operation that extracted rare metals from an asteroid field. It employed thousands of workers and produced materials essential for advanced technology one day. It simply was not there anymore. Not destroyed by explosions or weapons fire, just gone, where a platform the size of a small city had orbited for 20 years. There was now empty space. The Hegemony fleet rushed to investigate. Admiral Druchter, Vexler's military commander, led the search personally. "Find debris," he ordered. "Find energy signatures. Find something that explains what happened." His ship scanned for days. They found nothing. Wreckage. No trace elements. No sign that anything had ever been there except for the gravitational effects on nearby asteroids. "Sir, his science." Officer reported, "The gravitational readings suggest something massive was here until very recently. But our sensors show empty space. That is impossible," Druchter said. "Yes, sir, but that is what the instruments say." More incidents followed. A Council military depot containing advanced weapons vanished overnight. A communication relay that coordinated traffic across 3 star systems stopped existing. A research station studying dark matter disappeared along with its entire staff and 20 years of data. The pattern was always the same. Strategic targets that were important but not heavily defended. No witnesses, no evidence, no explanations. Council Prime called an emergency session. "We need to make contact with Earth," it announced. "This situation requires immediate attention." A diplomatic ship was sent to the Sol system with a message of peace and reconciliation. But it never came back. 3 more ships were sent. None returned. The silence from human space remained complete, but now it felt different, like hiding or fear, but like preparation. Something was coming. And the Council was beginning to understand that they might have made a very serious mistake. The first real sign that humanity was not hiding came on a Tuesday morning in the Kepler system. The Hegemony had built a massive mining operation there, pulling rare metals from 3 different asteroid belts. The operation was worth billions of credits and employed over 50,000 workers. At 0800 hours, it was there. At 0801 hours, it was gone, not destroyed, not damaged, simply no longer existing. Admiral Drukta received the distress call while he was having his morning meal. The voice of Commander the Cannel was full of confusion and fear. "Sir, the Kepler mining platform is gone. All of it." Drukta set down his food and activated the communication screen. "Define gone, Commander. I mean, it is not there anymore." "Sir, where the platform used to be, there is empty space. There's no debris, no energy signatures, no trace that it was ever built." Within hours, similar reports came from 12 different star systems. A military supply depot in the outer rim vanished. A communication hub that connected 6 different sectors disappeared. A research facility studying weapon technology was no longer there. Each incident was the same. Strategic targets that were important to Council operations gone without explanation. Or Evidence Council Prime called an emergency meeting. All 12 species gathered in the Great Chamber, their platforms floating in nervous circles. "This is an attack," Vexler declared, its skin cycling through angry reds and oranges. "The humans are using some kind of weapon we do not understand."
"How?"
"Do you attack something by making it disappear?" asked Counselor Yilmoth. "There are no explosions, no energy weapons, no signs of battle." "Maybe they are moving these installations somewhere else," suggested Zephyrin. "Some kind of transportation technology." Council Prime nodded slowly. "Send investigation teams to all affected sites. Use our best sensors and detection equipment. We need to understand what is happening." The investigation teams found exactly what the first reports had described: empty space where important installations used to be. The only clue was gravitational disturbances that suggested something very large had been there recently. Dr. Velkoth, the Council's chief scientist, studied the readings for days. Finally, he reported his findings to the emergency session. "The gravitational signatures are consistent with massive structures being moved through space," he said. "But the energy requirements would be enormous. No known technology could accomplish." "This no known technology to us," Council Prime corrected. "But what if the humans develop something we do not know about?" The answer came 3 days later. Commander Alex Chen had not been seen since the humans left Galactic Society 6 months ago. Now his voice came through communication systems across the galaxy, calm and professional as always. "This is Commander Chen of the Earth Defense Force. I am broadcasting on all frequencies to deliver a message to the Galactic Council." In the Council chamber, 12 species fell silent. "The installations and equipment you have lost belong to you," Chen continued. "But they were built using human labor, human materials, and human knowledge. We are simply taking back what we provided." Vexler's skin turned almost black with rage. "Impossible. Those installations were built by Council workers who supervised." "The work?" Chen's voice asked, as if he could hear the conversation. "Who designed the systems? Who provided the advanced technology that made them possible?" "Humans did. We built your infrastructure for you, and now we are taking it back." The broadcast continued. "You have 72 hours to evacuate all personnel from installations that were built with human involvement. After that time, we will reclaim our property." "This is theft," Council Prime shouted at the communication system. "This is collection of debt," Chen replied. "You wanted humanity to leave Galactic Society? We are leaving, and we are taking our contributions with us." The communication ended. Panic spread through Council space as governments tried to figure out which of their installations had been built with human help. The answer was disturbing. Over the past 50 years, humans had been involved in building almost everything important in the galaxy. They had provided the advanced materials for military bases. They had designed the power systems for space stations. They had built the transportation networks that connected different worlds. Now, all of that was being taken away. The next wave of disappearances was larger. Entire military bases vanished. Overnight, trade stations that served as hubs for commerce across multiple sectors were gone by morning. Even some orbital cities found their most important districts missing. But the most shocking incident happened in the core worlds, where the Council kept its most advanced fleet. Admiral Sarah Blake had been Earth's naval attached during the peace talks. She was known for her expertise in ship design and fleet tactics. She had also spent months touring Council shipyards and military facilities as part of the diplomatic exchange program, Now she appeared on the main screen in the hegemony's primary naval base, wearing a uniform that no one recognized. Admiral Druckter, she said, nodding politely. I hope you remember me. Druckter stared at the screen. Behind Blake, he could see what looked like a ship's bridge, but the technology was unlike anything he had ever seen. What do you want, human? Demanded. I want you to look out your window, Blake replied. Druckter turned to the main viewing screen that showed space around the naval base. His mandibles clicked in shock. 30-7 Hegemony Star Destroyers floated motionless in space around the station. They were not damaged or destroyed. They were simply not moving. What have you done to my ships? Druckter asked. We've borrowed them, Blake said calmly. The same way you borrowed our technology to build them. On each of the disabled ships, human voices began broadcasting on internal communication systems. The crews were unharmed, but completely unable to control their vessels. Captain Ryan Murphy, USS Yorktown, 2 Hegemony crew of the destroyer Conquest. Your ship's systems are now under our control. Please remain calm and follow safety procedures. Similar messages came from human officers on all 37 ships. The Hegemony crews found that their weapons, engines, and life support systems all responded to human commands now, not their own. How is this possible? Druckter whispered. Blake smiled. You spent 3 years telling us how primitive and backward we were. Did you really think we would reveal our true capabilities to people who saw us as enemies? We never saw you as enemies, Druckter protested. You saw us as subjects, Blake corrected. There's a difference, but not much of one. The communication ended, leaving Druckter staring at his paralyzed fleet. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Council military forces found their ships and weapons mysteriously malfunctioning. Not broken, but responding to commands from somewhere else. The humans were not attacking in any traditional sense. They were simply demonstrating that the Council's military power had never been their own. It had been on loan, and now the loan was being called in. The pattern became clearer over the next 2 weeks. Humanity was not seeking revenge or conquest. They were demonstrating complete control over galactic civilization with cold precision. Every major military installation found its weapon systems replaced overnight with devices that looked similar but worked completely differently. The new systems could not be removed, could not be understood. It would not respond to Council commands. General Steve Parker had been dismissed by the Council as a primitive human warrior during the peace talks. Now his face appeared on screens throughout the galaxy, wearing a uniform that seemed to shimmer with built-in technology. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, his voice carrying easily across thousands of star systems. The Galactic Council has been relieved of its authority. All military forces will stand down immediately. In the Council chamber, Vexther's skin cycled through colors so rapidly it looked like a flashing light. They cannot simply declare themselves in charge, it shrieked. They already have, Council Prime said quietly, staring at reports flooding in from across Council space. Parker continued his broadcast. The galaxy will now operate under human oversight. Your compliance is not optional, but neither is it difficult. Follow the new protocols, and your daily lives will improve significantly. New protocols arrived within hours. Every government facility, every military base, every important installation received detailed instructions about how things would work from now on. The instructions were not harsh or demanding. They were simply complete and absolute. Trade would continue, but under human supervision. Wars between species were now forbidden and would be stopped immediately. Resource disputes would be resolved by human arbitrators. Military buildups beyond defensive needs were prohibited. Most disturbing to the Council was how efficiently these rules were being enforced. The Aquatic Federation had been planning an attack on the Maritime Collective for months. The two species had been enemies for centuries, fighting over ocean worlds that both claimed. Admiral Gorthek was leading the Federation fleet toward their target when every ship in his formation simply stopped moving. Engineering report, he gurgled into his communication system. Sir, all engines are offline. We show full power, but the ships will not respond to navigation commands. A human voice came through the speakers, calm and professional. "This is Lieutenant Colonel Janet Torres of the Human Peacekeeping Force. Admiral Gorthek. You are ordered to return to Federation space immediately." "I do not take orders from humans," Gorthek declared. "You do now," Torres replied. "Your fleet will be escorted back to your home system. Any attempt to engage in hostile action will result in your ships being permanently disabled." Around Gorthek's fleet, ships began appearing. They were clearly human vessels, but they looked nothing like the small warships that had patrolled trade routes before. These were massive, sleek craft that seemed to bend light around their hulls. "Impossible," Gorthek's tactical officer reported. "Sir, I am reading energy signatures that do not match any known technology. These ships are generating more power than our entire fleet combined." The human ships did not threaten or attack. They simply surrounded the Federation fleet and began guiding them away from their target. Similar incidents happened throughout the galaxy. Military forces found themselves unable to engage in aggressive action. Their ships would not fire weapons. At other species, their communication systems would not transmit hostile messages. Their navigation systems would not plot courses toward forbidden targets. Dr. Monica Williams had been Earth's xenobiology expert during the peace talks. She had spent years studying different alien species, learning their languages and customs. The Council had barely paid attention to her quiet research. Now, she materialized in the Council chamber itself. Using technology that bypassed every security system they had. "How did you get in here?" Council Prime demanded, all 6 of its hands, reaching for emergency controls that no longer responded. "The same way we got into everything else," Williams replied calmly. She looked exactly as she had during the peace talks, but now she wore clothing that seemed to shift and change as she moved. "Your species have 3 choices," she announced, her voice somehow carrying to every corner of the vast chamber without amplification. "Accept human guidance, accept isolation from galactic society, or be removed from positions of authority entirely." "You cannot make such demands," Vexler protested, its skin flashing angry colors. Williams turned to look at the insect-like creature. "We are not making demands. We're explaining the new reality," she gestured, and the air in the chamber filled with images. Pictures of human technology in action across the galaxy. Ships that moved faster than light without using jump drives. Weapons that could disable entire fleets without causing harm to their crews. Construction projects that reshaped entire star systems in a matter of days. "For 50 years, we have been part of your civilization," Williams continued. "We built your infrastructure, improved your technology, and solved your problems. We did this while pretending to be less advanced than we actually were." Council Prime leaned forward on its platform. "Why? Because we hoped you would choose to be partners instead of rulers," Williams answered. "We gave you every opportunity to treat other species with respect and fairness. You chose superiority and control instead." The images in the air changed, showing human colonies that had been established in secret throughout the galaxy. Massive installations hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae. Fleets of ships that numbered in the thousands. The peace talks were a test, Williams explained. "We wanted to see if the galaxy's leaders could work together, could treat younger species as equals, could build something better than an empire based on fear. You failed that test." Zephyrness' many eyes focused on Williams with desperate intensity. "What happens now? What do you intend to do with us?" Williams' expression softened slightly. "We intend to give you what you claim to want. Peace, prosperity, an end to the constant wars and conflicts that have plagued this galaxy for thousands of years. Under human rule," Council Prime said bitterly. "Under human guidance," Williams corrected. "There is a difference. We have no desire to micromanage your daily lives or control your cultures. We simply will not allow you to harm each other or waste resources on pointless conflicts." Admiral Kate Sullivan appeared on screens throughout the chamber. She stood on the bridge of a ship that was clearly beyond anything the Council had ever imagined. Behind her, officers from multiple species worked together at stations that hummed with advanced technology. The transition period begins now, Sullivan announced. Human administrators will be assigned to all major population centers. They are there to help, not to control. Follow their guidance and you will find that life under the new system is significantly better than what you had before. We refuse? Vexter asked, though its skin had faded to a pale, defeated color. Sullivan's smile was neither cruel nor kind. Then you will discover that the choice was never really yours to make, outside the council chamber, across the galaxy. The age of human pretense was ending. The patient, diplomatic humans who had endured years of condescension and threats, revealing themselves to be something far more capable and far less forgiving than anyone had imagined. The new galaxy was being born. Humanity would guide its growth whether the older species wanted them to or not. The time for asking permission was over. 6 months after humanity revealed its true nature, the galaxy had become a completely different place. The changes were so dramatic that many species struggled to understand. What had happened to their worlds, wars that had raged for centuries, simply stopped. Not through peace treaties or negotiations, but because the weapons used to fight them no longer worked against other species. Military fleets found that their ships would only respond to defensive commands. Aggressive action was no longer possible. The hegemony and the Aquatic Federation had been enemies for over 300 years. Their conflict had destroyed dozens of worlds and killed billions of beings. Now, Admiral Drockter found himself sitting across a table from Admiral Gorthek. Working together to rebuild the damaged systems. This feels wrong, Drockter admitted, his mandibles clicking nervously. We have hated each other since before my grandfather was born. Hatred is expensive, replied Colonel Sandra Martinez, the human administrator assigned to oversee their cooperation. It costs resources, lives, and progress. Now you can use those resources for something better. Martinez was young by human standards, maybe 30 years old. But she spoke with an authority that made both seasoned military commanders listen carefully to her words. The mineral rights you were fighting over can be shared, she continued, showing them data on a screen that floated in the air without any visible support. There are enough resources in this system to supply both your species for 1,000 years. But our territorial claims, Gorthek gurgled. Our ancient rights to these systems. Your ancient rights nearly destroyed both civilizations, Martinez pointed out. Human analysis shows that cooperation will make both species wealthier and more secure than conquest ever could. The data she showed them was impossible to argue with. Trade between former enemies created more prosperity than war. Shared technology advanced both civilizations faster than competition. Peace was simply more profitable than conflict. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Human administrators arrived on every major world, not as conquerors, but as problem solvers. They brought technology that seemed like magic and solutions that no one had thought possible. President Dan Foster had been part of Earth's diplomatic team during the failed peace talks. Now he stood in what had once been the Galactic Council chamber. But the room had been completely transformed, where floating platforms had once separated. Different species by height and importance, there were now simple tables where representatives could sit together as equals. The imposing walls had been replaced with transparent barriers that showed the beauty of space beyond. The council failed because they confused control with leadership. Foster explained to the assembled representatives from 50 different species. They tried to rule through fear and dominance. We prefer to lead through competence and results. The results were hard to argue with. Planets that had been ravaged by war were being restored using human environmental technology. Species that had been oppressed under council rule found themselves with freedoms they had never imagined. The most remarkable change was in how quickly problems were being solved. Disputes that would have taken the council years to address were resolved in days. Resource shortages were eliminated through better distribution systems. Technical problems were fixed with solutions that worked the first time. Engineer Carl Johnson worked on the reconstruction of Zarian Prime, a world that had been strip-mined by the hegemony for over a century. The planet had been left as a barren wasteland when the resources were exhausted. Now Johnson stood on green grass that had been growing for only 3 months. Trees that should have taken decades to mature were already providing shade and oxygen. Rivers flowed where there had been only cracked earth before. "How is this possible?" asked Governor Thicmer, the local hegemony official who had been assigned to work with the humans. "Our scientists said this world would take 500 years to recover." Johnson shrugged. "Your scientists were working with Council-era technology. We have better tools." The better tools included devices that could restructure matter at the molecular level. Machines that could purify entire atmospheres in weeks instead of centuries. Agricultural systems that could turn desert into farmland. Overnight, but perhaps the most shocking discovery was how advanced human technology had become. Dr. Elena Rodriguez appeared in a public broadcast that reached every inhabited world in the galaxy. She looked exactly as she had during the peace talks 3 years earlier. "Many of you are wondering about human technology," she said, standing in what appeared to be a laboratory that stretched beyond the horizon. "You have seen our ships, our weapons, our construction abilities. You may be curious about how we achieved such advancement so quickly." Behind her, massive machines worked on projects that defied understanding, structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Energy sources that generated power without consuming fuel. Transportation systems that moved objects instantly, across vast distances. "The truth is, we did not achieve this advancement quickly," Rodriguez continued. "We have possessed this technology for over 200 years. We simply chose not to use it openly." The revelation sent shockwaves through every species in the galaxy. The humans who had seemed so eager to learn from alien technology had actually been far more advanced all along. "Why did you hide your capabilities?" asked a reporter from the Zenthari News Network. Rodriguez smiled sadly. "Because we hoped that other species would choose cooperation over domination on their own. We wanted to see if the galaxy could build a civilization based on mutual respect rather than technological superiority. When it became clear that the Council system was based on oppression rather than leadership, we decided that guidance was necessary." The psychological impact on the former Council species was devastating. They had gone from rulers of the galaxy to children being managed by beings who were clearly their superiors in every way. Some species adapted quickly to the new reality. The Maritime Collective embraced human guidance and found their civilization advancing at unprecedented speed. Their ocean worlds became models of environmental harmony and technological integration. Others struggled with the transition, the hegemony. Military leadership found it difficult to accept that their centuries of conquest and expansion had been pointless. They had built an empire through force, only to discover that true power came from capability rather than aggression. But even the resistant species could not argue with the results. Crime rates dropped to almost nothing under human administration. Poverty was being eliminated through better resource distribution. Disease and hunger were disappearing as human medical and agricultural technology spread to every world. The galaxy was becoming everything the peace talks had promised it could be. The only difference was that humanity had stopped asking for permission to make it happen. 1 year had passed since Jake Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The galaxy that existed now was unrecognizable from the one that had dismissed humanity as primitive and weak. Wars had ended. Poverty was disappearing. Worlds that had been destroyed by centuries of conflict were green and thriving again. The changes were so profound that many beings struggled to remember what life had been like under the old council system, but for the former council members, the transformation was a daily reminder of their failure. Council Prime Kethver no longer held that title. Its role was to help human administrators understand Zenthari, culture and needs, nothing more. The psychological weight of this change had broken many of the former council leaders. Some had requested isolation on remote worlds where they would not have to face the evidence of human superiority every day. Others had thrown themselves into their new advisory roles, hoping to find some dignity in being useful to their new managers. Kethver chose a different path. It requested a private meeting with Jake Morrison, the human who had walked away from their arrogance and changed everything. The meeting took place in what had once been the council's private chambers. The room had been redesigned by human architects, And the result was stunning. Instead of imposing platforms meant to show dominance, there were comfortable chairs arranged around a table that could expand or contract based on who was present. Large windows showed the beauty of space. Also displayed human engineering projects that defied imagination. A ring of structures surrounded the station, each one generating enough energy to power an entire star system. Morrison entered the room exactly on time. He looked the same as he had during the peace talks, which Kethfer now understood was probably intentional. Humans had mastered their biology along with everything else. Advisor Kethfer Morrison said politely, taking a seat across from the alien. "How can I help you?" Simple courtesy stung more than any insult could have. Morrison spoke to the former Galactic leader with the same calm respect he might show to any citizen. Kethfer said, its 6 hands folding. In a gesture of supplication, "How did your species advance so far in just 3 years? The technology we have seen, the capabilities you have demonstrated, they should have taken thousands of years to develop." Morrison leaned back in his chair, studying the alien with eyes that seemed to see everything. "We did not advance in 3 years," he said quietly. "We advanced over 3 centuries. Simply stopped pretending to be less than we were." The words hit Kethfer like a physical blow. "You mean ... We have possessed faster-than-light travel without jump gates for over 200 years, Morrison continued. We mastered energy manipulation, matter reconstruction, and biological enhancement long before we made contact with galactic civilization. Kethfer's hands trembled. Then why did you pretend to need our help? Why did you act like a younger species learning from our wisdom? Morrison's expression grew sad. Because we hoped you would prove worthy of partnership. We wanted to see if the galaxy could build something better than what existed. The peace talks ... double quotes were a test, Morrison confirmed. We spent 3 years giving the Council every opportunity to show that it could treat other species with respect and fairness. We offered our knowledge, our assistance, our cooperation. Kethfer remembered those offers. Council had dismissed them as attempts by primitives to gain favor with their superiors. We thought you were trying to manipulate us. We thought we were weak, Morrison corrected. And when beings believe themselves superior to others, they reveal their true nature. Through the window, Kethfer could see human ships moving in formations that seemed to dance through space. They moved faster than light without leaving any energy signature that Council sensors could detect. Their hulls seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. What happens now? Kethfer asked. What is humanity's plan for the galaxy? Morrison gestured toward the window where green worlds sparkled in the light of distant stars. We plan to give you what you claim to want. Peace, prosperity, advancement, cooperation between species, under human control. Under human guidance, Morrison corrected. We have no interest in ruling over daily life or controlling cultural development. We simply will not allow the strong to oppress the weak anymore. Kethfer looked at its former colleague, trying to understand. But surely you must be angry. We dismissed you, threatened you, tried to take your colonies. Morrison smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Anger would imply that we expected better from you. We hoped for better, but we prepared for exactly what happened. You knew we would fail the test. We knew it was likely, Morrison admitted. Most civilizations that achieve power through conquest and domination never learn to value cooperation. That is why they eventually fall. Standing up, Morrison walked to the window and looked out at the transformed galaxy. The Council species have a choice now. You can embrace the new system and benefit from human guidance. Or you can cling to old ideas about superiority and find yourselves left behind. Left behind how? Morrison turned back to face the former Council Prime. There are other galaxies. Kethfer. Other civilizations that might be more interested in true partnership than in dominance games. The implication was clear. Humanity was not limited to this galaxy. They had capabilities that extended far beyond what anyone had imagined. How long have you been watching us? Kethfer asked. Since before your species achieved spaceflight, Morrison replied. We have been observing galactic development for centuries, hoping that eventually a civilization would emerge that was ready for true cooperation. And if no such civilization emerges, Morrison's smile became genuinely sad. Then we continue our work alone, and this galaxy becomes a nature preserve managed by the only species. Mature enough to handle the responsibility, Kethver felt the full weight of what had happened settling on its consciousness. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had inherited it from species too immature to manage it properly. The peace talks, Kethver said slowly, they were our last chance to prove we could be partners instead of subjects. Yes, Morrison confirmed. And you chose to demand submission instead of offering cooperation. Walking back to the table, Morrison sat down and looked directly at the former Galactic leader. But the opportunity still exists. Advisor Kethver, your species can learn to be better than they were. The Maritimes are already adapting well to the new system. Some hegemony worlds are beginning to understand that strength comes from building rather than destroying. And if we cannot adapt, Morrison's expression remained neutral, then you will live comfortable, safe lives under human management until your species either matures or fades away naturally. Standing to leave, Morrison paused at the door. The galaxy is exactly as peaceful as we originally requested in those first diplomatic meetings. The only difference is that we stopped asking for permission to make it so. Kethver sat alone in the transformed chamber, staring out at a galaxy where wars had ended. Poverty was disappearing, and countless worlds were thriving under human guidance. The age of council arrogance was over. The age of human patience had ended as well. What remained was a galaxy learning to live under the guidance of beings who had proven themselves capable of both great restraint and absolute power. The peace talks had failed, but peace had been achieved anyway. Humanity had simply stopped waiting for others to choose it.